Welcome to the Manager Lab, where we delve into the increasingly dynamic world of talent management. In each episode, we will unravel key insights, break down the most relevant books and articles, and provide actionable tips to optimize your approach in developing and retaining top talent. Stay tuned for a deep dive into the art, science, and strategy of unlocking your team's full potential. Let's enter the Manager Lab. Think about the last time you received feedback that truly changed the way you showed up at work. Has it been a while? Not the quick, "you're doing great," or the vague, "you should communicate more," but feedback that stopped you in your tracks in a good way. The kind that made you reflect, adjust, and ultimately grow. That's the promise of 360-degree feedback. But as many managers know, the reality often falls short. Today, we're unpacking insights from the Harvard Business Review article, "For your 360 feedback to be effective, you need to discuss it." And more importantly, we'll talk about how you as a manager can turn 360 feedback from a checkbox exercise into a powerful engine for growth for yourself and for your team. Because when feedback works, people don't just improve performance. They build trust, they build self-awareness, and they become better leaders. All right, well, let's start with the uncomfortable truth. Most 360-degree feedback programs fail to deliver meaningful change. Not because feedback is bad, not because people don't care, but because the system is often treated as an event and not a process. Too often, 360 feedback is dropped into a manager's inbox, skimmed once, filed away, and quickly forgotten. The HBR article makes a critical point. 360 feedback only works when it's designed for development, not evaluation. So important. Make sure it's designed for development, not evaluation. If people believe the feedback will be used to judge them, rank them, or penalize them, they don't engage honestly. Raters sugarcoat answers. Recipients get defensive, and learning shuts down. So the first mindset shift is this. 360 feedback is not about proving your worth. It's about improving your impact. So, several key insights from this article. Number one, be crystal clear on the purpose. Here's the first actionable tip for managers. Separate development from performance evaluation. So if your team thinks 360 feedback affects pay, or promotions or job security, the data will be distorted. People won't be candid, and you won't get the truth that you need. So when introducing 360 feedback, especially if you're participating yourself, say this explicitly. This feedback is for your growth, not grading. Nothing here will be used against anyone. And then prove that through your actions. When people feel safe, honesty will follow. Key insight number two, feedback without context creates resistance. Another major takeaway from the article is this: raw feedback alone can do more harm than good. So imagine reading comments like this: needs to listen more, or can be intimidating, or doesn't always follow through. Without context, without specific examples, your brain fills in the gaps, and usually in the most negative way possible. That's called pothole theory, if you've ever heard of that. This article emphasizes that reflection and sense-making are essential. Feedback needs space to be processed, interpreted, and then translated into action. So the actionable manager tip here is never review 360 feedback in isolation. Set aside uninterrupted time, look for patterns, not single comments, and then ask, what's the impact of this behavior on other people? And if possible, work with a coach, mentor, or trusted peer to talk it through. Growth accelerates when feedback is processed with someone, not by yourself. Okay, key insight number three, don't argue the data. Get curious about it. Love this one. And I've used this one all throughout my career, and it's really helped. This is a big one. The instinctive reaction to feedback, especially tough feedback, is to explain it away. They don't see the full picture, or that's not what I meant, or, well, of course they misunderstood my intent. The article reminds us that feedback is about impact, not intent. Even if you disagree with the feedback, it still tells you something valuable and how others might be experiencing you. So here's the tip. When reviewing your 360 results, replace defensiveness with curiosity. So ask yourself, when might this be true? It might not be true all the time, but is there certain situations where this situation, might be accurate, might be true? With whom does this show up most? Or in what situations trigger this particular perception? You don't have to agree with every comment to learn from it. All right, key insight number 4, feedback without follow through. Feedback without follow through is a broken promise. Sorry about that. Here's where many managers unintentionally lose trust. They ask for feedback and then they don't do anything with it. The article is very clear. The most important moment in a 360 process happens after the feedback is delivered. That's when credibility is either built or lost. So the tip here is to share your takeaways with your team. You don't need to overshare or defend yourself. Simply say, hey, here's what I heard. Here's what I'm working on. And here's how you can help me. This does really 3 powerful things. It shows humility, it signals accountability, and it invites partnership. And here's the magic. When leaders role model openness to feedback, your team members will follow. All right, the last key insight, number 5, focus on just 1 or 2 changes, not everything. Another trap managers fall into is trying to fix everything all at once. The article cautions against overcorrecting. Real change happens through focused, sustained effort, not massive behavior overhauls. So the tip here is to choose 1 or 2 behaviors that will make the biggest difference over the next 3 to 6 months. For example, listening without interrupting, or being clearer about your priorities, or following up more consistently. Practice them deliberately and then ask for ongoing feedback and then track progress you've made over time. Small changes consistently applied lead to big leadership growth. So here's the big picture and why this matters. Let's zoom out. 360 feedback just isn't about making better managers. It's about building healthier organizations. When feedback is handled well, people feel heard, the number 1 human need. Leaders become more self-aware, trust deepens, performance improves, and it all starts with a mindset of the most effective leaders don't ask, how do I look? They ask, how do I impact others? And how do I get better? How do I do better? How do I manage and lead better? That question is the foundation of great leadership. So to summarize all of the key takeaways for a manager that this article points out, here are the core ones to remember. Number 1, design 360 feedback for development, not evaluation. Number 2, create psychological safety so people are honest. 3, process feedback thoughtfully. Don't rush or react. Number 4, get curious, not defensive. 5, share what you're working on and follow through. And then number 6, focus on a few meaningful behavior changes. Look, feedback is a gift, but only if we're willing to unwrap it. When you lean into 360 feedback with humility and intention, you send a very powerful message. Growth matters here. Learning matters here. People matter here. And in doing so, you don't just become a better manager. You become the kind of leader others want to follow. Well, thanks for listening. And until next time we meet in the Manager Lab, do good work.